They are winning and partying in Seattle and Cleveland like it's 1995.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all the Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, they gave me a lower third where I can be called Sully. I have been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Why do I say full season? Well, we're starting my sixth season here. We're about a month into it. But games mean just as much now as they do later in the year, and that's going to be a topic of today's show of two teams that are really banking some critical wins and ones that should make their fans think, hey, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool how we're hanging in right now. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And Instagram, I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Before we hop into the show today, let's take a look at the trivia question. We talked a little bit the other day. It was the anniversary of Rickey Henderson breaking the all-time walks record, which has since been passed by Barry Bonds. And I brought up the question, who has walked 2,000 times in their major league career? Who are the players who have piled up 2,000 walks? And Albert the Conjugator got it down. He said Barry Bonds, that's correct. The Babe, that's correct. Rickey Henderson, that's correct. And the Kid. Now, it's the correct Kid, meaning Ted Williams. When I first saw the Kid, I wondered, wait a minute, does he mean Gary Carter, Ted Williams, or Ken Griffey Jr.? I'm assuming he got it correct, or else he was maybe spreading his chips on the table there. But you're right. Those are the four: Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, Rickey Henderson, and Barry Bonds. Pretty good company to be in, if I might say so. Let's also take a look at who owned baseball on the 25th day of April. Not a full slate of games, but enough to bring up some people who own baseball. Zach Wheeler, let's face it, Zach Wheeler is pitching like an early candidate for the Cy Young Award. And one of the reasons why my pick for the Phillies to win the World Series is one that I am not backing down from right now, even though the Atlanta Braves look wonderful. Wheeler pitched 6 innings of one-hit ball. He fanned 8, and the Phillies blanked the Reds 5-0. William Contreras powered the Brewers past the Pirates with a pair of hits, including a home run and a stolen base. There was a 7-5 final there. Jose Ramirez went 3 for 4 with a grand slam. We're going to talk a little bit about him. The Cleveland Guardians held on to beat the Red Sox 5-3 or 6-4. What am I talking about? Luis Castillo struck out 6 batters in 6 innings, and the Mariners got a win that I will bring up later today. Some half wobs. Mackenzie Gore pitched great for Washington, but it got a hard luck loss. Nestor Cortez also got a hard luck loss as the Yankees wound up splitting that 4-game series with Oakland. Check out Locked On A's. I'm hosting Locked On A's all week long. And you know what? The A's, they're not great, but against teams not called the Cleveland Guardians, they're 9-10, which is not horrible. So it's not White Sox level. Josh Smith played well for the Rangers in a game that they're going to be mad that they lost. And Jurickson Profar got on base 3 times, homered. But the Padres had an embarrassing 8th inning collapse against Colorado. I'm going to come up to a bunch of these are games that I'm going to talk about spread out throughout this show because, well, you know what? I'm a broken record about this, but next week we're going to be in May. And starting in June is when I think you can really start to look at the standings. That's really when you say, okay, we've had about a third of a season. We got an idea of who we are. And that's when you have to begin to take stock. But the first month of the season should be a period of time where you're banking stuff. And two teams are doing it gloriously. By the way, by the way, I'm now Mr. A, apparently, because of my hosting of Locked On Aids. Congrats on your split, Mr. A. So much traffic, no green lights. Well, there you go. Amen to that. We got a couple people in the chat already. Good to see that some people are staying with me late here in Los Angeles County. If you're in the chat, do me a favor. Post if you want to post something. That's great. But also let me know where you are on the planet. So I know I've got people who are in Europe who listen to this. I would like to know if you're in either different countries or different parts of the United States or elsewhere. And if you're from another planet, you are always welcome, especially if you are indeed an everyday Sully. Let's talk about the game. The first game that I really want to talk about is that 4-3 win. Luis Castillo got the win for Seattle. And their bats, the Seattle Bats, were led by Ty France, who homered, and Julio Rodriguez stole a base, got a couple hits, but there was Luis Castillo who really was the star of the game. And he, as I mentioned, he pitched well, and the Seattle Mariners won the series against the defending World Series champion Texas Rangers. Sully, let's pump the brakes. It's early. No, I'm not going to, and I'll tell you exactly why. Last year, the Seattle Mariners missed the postseason by how many games? How many games did they miss the postseason by? One game. And remember, they were in first place by themselves for a tiny blink and you'll miss a period of time of September. In other words, there was at least a couple of days they woke up in September thinking, like, we could win the division if only we play out very well. But how many games do you think the Seattle Mariners won in Texas last year? How many times do you think they went in to Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, and won a game? Do you know how many times? 0. Not once. Not once did the Seattle Mariners win a game in Texas last year in a razor-thin race to get to either the playoffs, either as a wild card or as a division champion. They went 0-6 in Texas. 0-6. If they went 1-5, they're in the postseason. If they went 2-5, they are 2-4. They may have had a better chance to win the division. Instead, even with the expanded playoffs, they were playing golf when the wild card team of the American League West went on to win the World Series. When you have a team and a franchise that is as tortured as the Seattle Mariners, and how tortured are they? They are the only team in Major League Baseball to have never even appeared in a World Series. Seattle is the lone city that we have on our map that has never hosted a World Series game in the history of Seattle, Washington. And they've had some of the all-time great players play their prime there. Ichiro, whose legacy we're going to talk a little bit about later in the game, or sort of tangentially talk about his legacy a little later in the game. Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson, Edgar Martinez, Felix Hernandez, all of these superstars played their prime. You could argue that Randy Johnson's was in Arizona or Alex Rodriguez was in New York, but some of their big moments were in Seattle. Randy Johnson's first Cy Young Award, and A-Rod exploded into prominence as a Mariner. And they were all, and Rodriguez, Griffey, Edgar Martinez, and Randy Johnson were all teammates on the 1997 National League Western Division champion and in the 95 one. A-Rod was off the bench that year. What I'm saying is this is a team that has never made it to the World Series. There's a lot of pressure on them to get to that point. They spent a lot of money. And when they're in that big fight down the stretch, these wins that they bank now are not ones they're going to have to make up for, but ones that they can build upon. It's always easy to look about how teams played down the stretch against each other in September. It's a lot easier to get to that point if you're playing well in April and you don't blow some of those big moments. Let's talk a little bit about our friends at DoorDash, because my mom is listening to this show right now. Hi, Mom. And I can tell you right here and right now, we're going to get you something, Mom, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to tell you if it's going to be flowers. I'm not going to tell you if it's something for self-care, or I know you like practical gifts, which may not be some of the latest tech. I'm not going to tell you what we're getting for you, but I will tell you how you're getting it. We will be using DoorDash. We may use the same day delivery or schedule a week ahead of time, but we're going to get savings that are going to make you proud of us, Mom. And with a Dash Pass membership, we can save with delivery fees being waived, reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotals. Other fees, including service fees, apply and terms apply. You too can order now and get everything you need for Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 in your next flower, convenience, grocery store, or retail store, and you order now on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply. DoorDash. You'll get it, Ma. Hey, are you checking out the brand new and terrific sports highlights and show you can watch on YouTube and on the free Amazon Fire TV's channel app? That's Locked On Sports Today. That's the new place for all the biggest stories and all the analysis from the Locked On team. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on the free Amazon Fire TV and channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Now, the other team that is currently the best team in baseball is absolutely surreal that it's the Cleveland Guardians. And do you know what? The Guardians, who, of course, are the team that we've waited the longest for a World Series title. We've been waiting since 1948 for a Cleveland title. And all the teams that had won, or all the cities that had been waiting since before 1948 have been taken care of. Both Chicago teams have won a World Series. Boston has won a World Series. Washington has won a World Series. And lo and behold, we're still waiting for Cleveland. How long has it been for Cleveland? Do you know what two cities have had a World Series title since Cleveland's? Milwaukee has, not the Brewers, the Braves. And oh yeah, Brooklyn has had a more recent World Series title than the city of Cleveland. So they are a team that needs to win. They need to win it eventually to get the pressure off their back, because they're perilously close to matching the same length of time Red Sox fans waited for. But in the last bunch of years, Cleveland has had teams that have pitched really well, but can't really hit very well. Well, now you've seen the injured list for Cleveland has just gone banana boats. Beyond just Shane Bieber, who's done for the year, Sam Hentges is gone, Eli Morgan is gone, Trevor Stephan is gone, Gavin Williams is on. These are all on the injured list right now, and their rotation is really not been that great. Logan Allen hasn't been, Logan Allen hasn't been great. Tanner Beebe has not been that great. Carlos Carrasco's been, and Tristan McKenzie haven't been great. But, and up until today, with Jose Ramirez, he did wind up having the big grand slam, had a great day against Boston, but he's been a major slump. And when you look at all of that, you would have assumed that the Cleveland Guardians were playing a dumpster fire. And you also take a look at if you said, well, they're in first place, and you say, oh man, well then that just must be because the AL Central is a mess. And going into this year, it was not clear. Well, it's not clear for either Central team, but it was not clear that any team was going to run away with it. Or maybe even, I thought like 85, 86 wins would be enough to win the division in the Central. Well, right now, Cleveland is the best team in the American League. They are 18-7. They have a 2.5 game lead over Kansas City, who, by the way, are playing 615 ball themselves. They are 11 games above 500. And yes, they've played the A's a bunch of times, sure. But you know what? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to beat teams that you're better than. And of course, that other thing is that they have that 11 game, they're 11 games above 500, and they have a run differential of positive 49, which is the best in baseball right now. So it's not just that they're, winning close games. They're winning convincingly, and they're winning by getting big hits. And when you go down the stretch, you're going to want to have those games in the bank. Now, they are going to have an interesting test. They beat up on the Oakland A's the other day, or the last weekend. And they wound up playing well against Boston. Now, Boston's not a great team by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a team that has a winning record right now. And now Cleveland's going to be facing a real test. And this is the main reason why there's partying like it's 1995. You'll remember that in 1995, Seattle made their first ever trip to the postseason in that memorable stretch, which included being the Yankees in one of the greatest postseason series of all time. And then they clashed with Cleveland in an ALCS, which just a few years ago would have seemed absurd to have Cleveland versus Seattle, winner goes to the World Series. But Cleveland wound up topping it and winning the final game that was started by Randy Johnson. And the Cleveland Indians then, they went on to play a memorable series against Atlanta, but in the end, Atlanta with a complete game by Greg Maddux in game 1 and a combined one-hitter by MVP of the series, Tom Glavine, in game 6. Atlanta wound up winning that World Series. Well, we're going to see this weekend Cleveland versus Atlanta, which is going to be an interesting test for Cleveland because Atlanta can still pitch. And I don't know if you notice this, Atlanta could still hit. Yes, I know I picked the Phillies to win the World Series. And by the way that they're playing, and Bryce Harper and Zach Wheeler and all of them are firing on all cylinders, and they've won 8 of their last 10 games, I don't feel bad about that pick. But Atlanta's won 9 of their last 10 games. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and they look really good. Their .739 winning percentage, their 17-6, is the best in baseball. Now, with that in mind, they have the best winning percentage in baseball. Cleveland has won the most games. They played a few more games, which means this weekend, the Cleveland-Atlanta clash, I think is going to be the single most interesting series of the weekend. Is it a World Series preview? Of course it is. Of course it is, because it's one that could actually happen. But Cleveland is not doing it with their pitching. They're doing it with their bats, which means if their pitching starts to improve and be the way that people think they can pitch, and Ramirez's bat starts to wake up, and you start to see that the nailers of the world can continue to hit, that could be an interesting situation for Cleveland. The last bunch of years, if Cleveland's pitching staff had a decent lineup, they would have been a legit pennant contender. Now, who knows? Are they? Could this be the year? I don't know. But one thing I do know is they don't have to pile up wins at the end of the year. They can build upon this phenomenal start that they have now. You know, this is a fantastic time to be a sports fan with everything going on. You've got the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs are going on right now. Major League Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers can get to $150 of bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on anything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks to sacrifice bunts, all on an app that's safe and secure and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Come on. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV's channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local extras of Locked On, plus national shows like this one covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV's channel app. Let's just go to the comments section, see what people are saying. Trevor Jones, Nolan McMahon, and a few other I'd go see play Rocky Ball, be over the moon to see prospects. Oh, I think people are talking a little bit about the Rockies right now. Yeah, there's we have the Rockies are they won a game against San Diego that the Padres are going to absolutely hating their life if the Padres miss the playoffs by just 1 or 2 games. The fact that they put up the Rockies put up a 6th spot in the bottom of the 8th to win that game. It wasn't just a Coors Field, I got check swing home run situation. It was a situation where sloppy play and thrown to the wrong. It was a terrible inning for San Diego, and they better hope that that doesn't come back to haunt them. Hey, but Jonathan Curran, hey, you're in Dublin. Hey, good to see you. Let me know what Jonathan. Go post on any of the sites and let me know what the interest of baseball is in Dublin. I would love to see more baseball coming out of Dublin. And I actually believe that if an Irish-born player ever played for the Red Sox, there would be no way they would be able to keep his jersey on the shelves. People would just be buying him left and right. Hey, it was today is the anniversary. So I go again old school to my This Week in Baseball book. Today is the anniversary. In 1959, Sadaharu Oh hit his first home run. And with that, he went on to become the all-time home run champion of the Japanese League and has become a national hero there. He wound up hitting 868 home runs in his time playing from 1959 on the Yomiuri Giants, all the way to 1980. And he led the league every year from 1962 until 1977, with one exception. In 1975, he was held to a mere 33 home runs. But year in and year out, he never hit 60 in any year. Year in and year out, he hit roughly around 45 home runs a year and wound up with that amazing 868 home runs total. And there became kind of a friendly back and forth between O and with Henry Aaron, who was breaking Babe Ruth's record right around the time that O was putting unbelievable stats in Japan. Now, O has been an incredibly proud member of the Nippon Professional Baseball League and has been one of its great ambassadors, and seems to have been someone who has absolutely loved being the face of Japanese baseball, and probably had no real ambition to come play in Major League Baseball. But also remember, at the time, there were no Japanese-born players in Major League Baseball. The renaissance of and the entrance of Japanese players really didn't start didn't start in earnest until the arrival of Hideo Nomo after the strike of 1994 and the lockout of 1995. And the logic seemed to be that the players in Japan couldn't play at the same level as the players in Major League Baseball. And then when Nomo showed up, a new ridiculous mindset started, which was, well, maybe some of their pitchers can. Maybe some of their pitchers can come over and pitch well, but not their position players. Their position players can't play on that level. Then came Ichiro in 2001. And Ichiro played a different brand of baseball as everyone else was roided up and jacked up. Here came a guy who played the small ball, bunting, getting on base, stealing bases, and was the counter programming for the steroid era, and no one knew how to handle it. Said, oh, well, maybe a player like that can, but certainly not a big, strong power hitter. Ladies and gentlemen, Hideki Matsui shows up. Hideki Matsui becomes a star with the Yankees, becomes the World Series MVP in 2009. And, well, and there you go. Well, could they be the elite player? Hey, have you met Shohei Ohtani? As more and more players come from Japan and have succeeded as good players, as superstars, as role players, I can't help but think, what would have happened if Sadaharu Oh tried out in America? Would he have been an 800 home run hitter? I don't know. Could he have been really good? Well, if the recent sample size have shown that a superstar in Japan could translate into being a superstar in the major leagues, it's incredibly intriguing, especially because he would have been that counteraction to Henry Aaron, in that Henry Aaron was, and I'm not talking about ethnicity or race, I'm just talking about Henry Aaron was a powerful right-handed swinger, and O was a powerful left-handed swinger. And could he have translated into a big superstar? I don't know. Probably would have been really good, because you will note he was really good for a really long period of time in Japan. But this is one of the reasons why I love the way Major League Baseball is set up, and I love the globalization of Major League Baseball. I want, and this is not because of any sort of, the xenophobia or anything, I want the best players of the world to be playing in America and playing Major League Baseball, because I want Major League Baseball to be the highest league no matter where you are in the world. And I want to have all the best players. Or if there's a player in Uzbekistan, if there's a player in Haiti, if there's a player in the Republic of Congo or in Laos or in Bridgeport, Connecticut, I want them playing on the best level of competition from all around the world. And O could have been a great player here. He could have put his stamp on some team the way that Ichiro did in Seattle, the way that Ohtani did first with the Angels and now with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the way that Tanaka did with the Yankees, the way that Koji Uehara did with the Boston Red Sox. So it's an intriguing what could have been, but one that I don't think that the great O, who's 83 years old and will turn 84 later in May, I don't think he loses sleep over it. I think he loves being the king of Japanese baseball. And maybe the fact that he never played in Major League Baseball will make his legend a little grander, because he'll be this mysterious figure in terms of a Major League Baseball identity, but certainly the king and the greatest ambassador, and someone whose fame permeated across the Pacific Ocean as Aaron was going on his great tour. We'll never know. We will never know. But here is my trivia question. Who is the first Japanese-born player to hit a postseason home run, or I'll be very specific, a Major League Baseball postseason home run? Who is the first Japanese-born player to hit a home run in the Major League Baseball postseason? Put that down. That is your trivia question. And there you go. And we have people up here in Ireland and people up here from all around the country who are posting stuff in the chat. Good to see you all. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you can't get enough of me, then please, please, please subscribe to Locked On A's, because I'm hosting 5 episodes there a week as well. Talking about the 3 teams, the Seattle Mariners, the Cleveland Guardians, and the Atlanta Braves, who are partying like it's 1995, and they better hope they're winning in October and not just in April. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.